I was on Craigslist again and drug home more junk. Got this go-kart here. It was a package deal with that blue mini bike. Really only wanted the mini bike, but the guy wanted to sell both of them, so it is what it is. They both have the same issue, same as all the lawnmower videos I make. Someone left gas in them, and that's it. Now they don't run; they run on ether, but that's it. This is a Manco Critter 2. They still make them, so this thing isn't even that old. It's probably like early 2000s. It's in better shape than it looks like on Craigslist. I mean, there's just some freaking plants growing through it, but the paint's like still pretty nice on it. It's not rusty or anything. Has a little 3.5 horsepower Briggs on it. Those are the newer ones. They have the Robin Subaru Honda clones that Harbor Freight used to sell. And they have a little bit bigger tires on them. This thing has some puny little tires. You're not going to see any videos of me riding this because you can't be over like 4 feet tall to even fit in this thing. So it's definitely a kid's go-kart only. And it's also one of these little one-wheel drive ones where the motor only drives this wheel. The other wheel in the rear is just along for the ride, same as the front. This is a 2-seater though. So hopefully when I can get it running, I can put it back on Craigslist, and I'm hoping to get back more than I actually paid for everything altogether. But just like the other push mower video, I'm going to show you how to clean out one of these pulse eject carbs. I'll go into a little more detail this time, but I had to actually clean the carburetor out. So here's a close-up on this motor. Not surprisingly, I can pretty much smell the stale fuel getting this close to it. First thing you want to do is remove the air cleaner, which this one has a kind of unique one. Normally they have a little pancake thing with a foam filter in it. So I guess we'll see what's in here. Well, it still has the foam air filter, just a little bit different style of it. So there's that. Oh, look at that, it's real thin. Yeah, that's different. Haven't seen that before. Makes this a newer motor. Next I'm going to pull, there's 2 screws here and then 2 bolts right here that hold the air cleaner onto the carburetor. Then we'll be able to get at the carburetor and take it off the tank and the motor. There, I have the air cleaner off, and now you can see the awe-inspiring Briggs Pulse Jet carburetor. Now, as I went over in the video with that push mower that I got to the side of the road, these carburetors don't have a fuel bowl, which on any other carburetor on the face of the earth is basically a reserve that the carburetor keeps in it to provide fuel to the motor. Normally your fuel pump or the fuel line, however it's rigged up, will bring fuel into a fuel bowl, and then it sits there and the carburetor regulates the level of it and then takes from it as needed. These have no bowl, instead use the entire gas tank as their bowl. They sit directly on top of the tank. The tank's open underneath this here, and it just draws the fuel directly out of the tank. There is a little square thing on the side here that is a rubber diaphragm in, and as the engine sucks in air on every stroke, this little diaphragm moves in and out and actually acts as a fuel pump, kind of, to create a suction to bring the gas up into the carburetor. And then the carburetor does its carburetor things, and the fuel goes into the motor. Here's your throttle, which leads to your choke here. The throttle's up on the gas pedal, of course. Now, the only way to clean these fully is just to rip the whole tank off and take the carburetor off the tank, clean it. That's what we gotta do next. So it looks like I got disconnect, the linkage here. There's usually 2 nuts or bolts up here. Here's one of them that hold the carburetor onto the cylinder head. And then I gotta dig around and see what's holding the tank on. This is actually a pretty big tank. I guess because it was designed to be a go-kart motor. It's normally pretty tiny. This thing's like twice the size these tanks normally are. So it's just to give it more runtime. So that's what I'm going to do now is hopefully pull the tank and carburetor all apart in one piece. Here's the carburetor off the motor. You can see it had a little bit of rust occurring in the tank too. This shiny part here with some gasket left on it's where it bolts onto the carburetor. This tube and this thing are what sit into the tank, and somehow through magic this pulls fuel up in. The only internals in this carburetor are behind this plate here. This is where the actual rubber diaphragm is that pumps fuel. Other than that, there's your choke, your throttles right here. You can't really see that. Well, you can probably see it in here. Can't see anything. So anyway, just going to pull this off and clean out in the air carburetor cleaner. And then you like to blow carburetor cleaner up in this thing. There's a main jet right in there you want to blow carburetor cleaner through. And then blow it through every other port in here. And then I follow up with compressed air to blow all the goodness out that's clogging the carburetor up. Other than that, I'm just going to clean the tank out. It's actually not rusty or scaly inside. So I'm just going to dump the old fuel out and switch some new stuff in it, dump it out again, and then put fresh gas in. It should be good. There's not a lot of sediment in the bottom or anything. It's surprisingly clean. So it didn't sit for like 10 years or anything. Just long enough to foul everything up. So here's the inside of one of these magical creatures. Took this plate off. Here is the rubber diaphragm that I told you about. That's it. You can see the crap in there. It's probably fouling everything up. And then all you have is a spring and a washer. And that's everything that's inside these carburetors. I already cleaned up the carburetor portion. I blew out all the ports with air. Like I said, you just blow carburetor cleaner in everywhere, every port that fuel or air flows through. Screw holes gain you nothing, only the internal ports. And then I blow them through with shop air and get all the goodness out, and all the holes blow through clear now. So once once you get air through every hole and carburetor cleaner through every hole, pretty much the carburetor is going to function now. I'm just going to clean up this piece and then reassemble it. It just goes on there. That's it. And then I'm going to clean the tank out and reassemble it, and it should start. Another thing I keep forgetting to mention in these videos is the idle screw, idle mixture screw. On these, it goes in right here. Now, the way this works is you look at the tip of these like a needle. The more you screw this in, basically it goes into the inverse of that. So you can picture a chamber that this needle will go into, and if you turned it in all the way, it would completely block off the chamber. So as you back this out, it'll allow more and more fuel past this needle tip on it in the carburetor. And as you tighten it in, it restricts the fuel. This is how you set your idle mixture for the carburetor. So you want to pull that out and clean it. When you reinstall it, the initial setting on every carburetor I've ever dealt with, if you turn this all the way in, is then once it stops, now don't bear down on it, just feel when it stops, then turn it out exactly 1.5 turns. So that'll be 1, 2, 3 rotations of the screwdriver from like noon to 6. And that will give you close enough to at least where it'll start and run properly. And then from there you can turn it in and out to tweak it. Well, I have it all back together. Let's see what happens here. So that thing's on. Choke's on. The guy that had before me put another kill switch on the steering wheel. It does the same thing. So that's on. I had it running already, but I haven't had it running on with the choke on from a cold start. So I guess we'll see what happens here. Should be fun to start with a camera in one hand. Turn the choke off there. There we go. I already set the idle to where it would run without engaging the clutch. There we go. And the brake. Look at that. We can kill it here. Look at that. Works like a charm. Now I'm just going to put this thing up for sale so someone that is a lot shorter than me can enjoy it. There's no way that I'll be able to fit my torso in this thing. So there you go. Hope you learned some more about fixing small engines that, have bad fuel in them. Because so far in my life experience, I think every small engine I've ever fixed has just been fuel and carburetor issues.